Thanks for joining us today for an interview with REO Speedwagon's Kevin Cronin and Chicago's Robert Lamm and Lee Loughnane. We'll ask Kevin, Robert, and Lee to identify themselves when answering for the first time so you can hear whose voice is speaking. I'm now going to turn the call over to Rachel, the operator, who will call on you one at a time for your questions.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Our first question is from John Moser with The Morning Call. John?
Hi, guys. The publicity material for the conference noted that it was amazing that you guys had never played together before. I'm wondering why that never happened and why it's happening now. And as a second question, follow-up question, will you guys be playing together on stage?
Hi, this is Lee Loughnane, and it's pretty much inexplicable why we haven't done this before, but I'm very happy and excited that we are doing it now. And also, yes, we will be playing an encore together on stage.
Great, thanks.
Okay, our next
This is
question.
Kevin call. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Kevin, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to add to that it doesn't make any sense that we haven't played together, considering both bands come out of Chicago but it's kind of cool that we've never played together because it makes this tour that much more special for fans of both bands. And as far as us playing together on stage, I think that is probably for me the most exciting part of it is that we're going to be able to kind of cross-pollinate for a while at the end there, and and I'm just very excited to have the great musicians in Chicago, playing along on some of our songs. To hear the Chicago horn section on "Roll the Changes" is something that I'm really looking forward to, and so it should be a very exciting tour.
Do you think it had anything to do with the fact that when you guys both were on top, that your fans were sort of, not exactly the same people?
This is Robert.
No, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Robert.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, probably, chronologically, Chicago was probably, I'm guessing, about 5 years earlier, and we did sort of come out of a sort of a progressive jazz rock foundation. So yeah, it would have generated a different group of fans. But I think there's nothing like longevity, and the fact that both bands tour our perennial tour draws has kind of homogenized our audience, if you will. And as a matter of fact, from the information that I've been getting, this is the best pre-selling package tour, at least the best-selling one that Chicago's ever been involved with. So I think that tells us a lot.
Great. Thanks again, guys.
And also, as Kevin had said, the excitement of playing together on stage, this is something that neither the Chicago fans or the REO fans have seen before, so this is something new for them.
Great.
Thank you. Our next question is from Rob DiGiacomo with Press of Atlantic City. Rob?
Yes, I wanted to ask a little bit more about, you talked about coming sort of from the same time period, but maybe having different fans, different sound originally, but do you share any of the same influences? Are there things you guys have in common musically that sort of allow you to sort of play together now?
I'm not sure what their influences were, but I know that our influence were classical composers as well as rock and roll, and the Beatles, Frank Zappa. I mean, many different artists were our influences as we came up.
So Kevin, this is Robert. What were the early influences for REO?
Well, Lee just kind of nailed it. I mean, the Beatles are kind of the common denominator for so many bands that followed them. I mean, for me, I was, and I'm guessing that both of you guys will probably sitting in front of the television set when the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I know for me, I had been taking guitar lessons for a couple of years, and I didn't really know why I was playing the guitar. I was just playing, on top of Old Smokey and She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain. And then all of a sudden the Beatles came on, man, and the opening chords of I Want to Hold Your Hand just, it was like a Maxell tape commercial. I was sitting there, it just blew me out of my chair, and it changed my life so dramatically that day. I mean, I went from, the week before I would be walking to my guitar lesson, be getting my ass kicked by people who, by guys who just were looking for someone to beat up, and it's like, oh, there's a guy with a guitar, let's kick his ass. And then the next week, after the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, those same guys wanted to be in a band with me. So it's the Beatles were it for me. How about you, Robert? What would you say was your major influence when you were a kid?
Well, my thought was that I think that for me it was jazz. It was definitely the Beatles. I mean, I think the Beatles is probably the reason everybody who's in the music business today is there, because they heard the Beatles and they said, I would love to do that. So for me, it was jazz. It was Brazilian music. Definitely the Beatles. Definitely Motown, as far as I'm concerned. All those things tended to it really influenced my songwriting and kind of really skew me towards a certain direction musically. And then I found these knuckleheads that I've been playing with for 40 some years who had similar tastes, and that was great.
Any other comments?
Yeah, the Beatles. The great thing about the Beatles, and it kind of is why REO Speedwagon in Chicago makes sense. Kind of what Lee was talking about. That the Beatles really showed the world that rock and roll music could be such a wide variety musically. The Beatles had horns on some of their songs. The Beatles had some of their songs were like folk songs, little acoustic guitar songs, and the Beatles encompassed all these different. The Beatles had jazz. The Beatles had Motown. The Beatles were rock. The Beatles were folk. They were just so open to all the different influence of music. They soaked it all up and then put it out from their perspective, and they really showed that rock music could encompass all different kinds of styles. And as we're talking about this, it really, the Beatles are what makes this combination of REO and Chicago make sense. It's gonna, and like I say, I can't wait to hear what happens when we all kind of, get on stage at the same time and start playing on each other's stuff. That's going to be really fun, I think, for us as well as for the fans.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Melissa Ruggieri at Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Melissa?
Hey guys, I'm just wondering, so with so many songs to choose from, and in the case of Chicago with your new album to promote, what's the process for compiling the set list to try and get as much in there as you can, but then also, obviously having a time limit on stage?
That is a very good question, because we have an overabundance of songs. Even when we play shows on our own, we play a 2-hour show and can't get all of the songs that have become hits into the show. So we've had to pare it down to, I think, like an hour set. Each band is going to play an hour set. So picking the songs is a difficult process for it, but I think we will weather the storm and figure it out. And pick out 3 songs for each band to play with in conjunction with each other in the encore. So we're excited about it.
And how much of the new album might fans be hearing?
Probably 1 song off of the new album.
Okay. And how about you, Kevin? How about with REO?
Yeah, a very similar situation. I mean, we have a core of songs that if we don't play them, there'll be an angry mob waiting for us outside around the tour bus, So there are those songs that people buy tickets to come and hear, and I've always adhered to the theory that people are spending their hard-earned money to come and see us play. We're going to give them the songs that they want, And to me, there's nothing worse than going to a concert to see a band and they leave out some of their biggest songs for some reason. I've never understood why people do that, and it makes me mad when I go to a show and that happens. I feel like Lee and Robert are saying the same thing. It's like there's certain songs that, if Chicago doesn't play 25 or 64, it's like, of course they're going to play that. If we don't play, Riding the Storm Out, it would be silly. So we're going to give the people what they came for and then some. When the encore hits, it's going to be the songs on steroids. So I think everybody's going to hear the songs that they want to hear.
Right. Once we hit the encore, it's 1 + 1 makes 3.
Yeah, there you go. At least. If 1 + 1 makes, I think it's more like 13 by the time.
Thank you. Our next question is from Gary Graff at Billboard. Gary?
Hi, guys. Sorry about that.
Hey, Gary.
Tell me, in talking about what you're going to be doing together, can you talk about it from the consideration of a musical standpoint? I mean, you really are, like when Chicago toured with Earth, Wind, and Fire, there's bands that have history of similar musical sensibilities and musical arrangement. In the case of REO, it really is much more different than some of the stuff you've done before. So how are you approaching it in terms of the arranging of these songs you're going to do together? And this is for both Kevin and as well as Robert and Lee.
This is Robert. Hi, Gary. Nice to talk to you again. I was actually sitting and practicing the REO songs today, and I was kind of giving that some thought. I know Panko is off and been sketching out some brass stuff for the REO things. And I actually don't know the answer to this question, but there's got to be a way that would make a couple of the Chicago songs more in the REO neighborhood of composition and approach, and maybe that means no horns. I don't know. So it's something that I've been thinking about. But as we all agree, the concept of the two bands together, I think at least visually and sonically and certainly volume-wise, will give the people more than they planned for.
So Kevin, which are the REO songs that you've always dreamed or fantasized about having this kind of attack that you'll get with Chicago on?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, when this the idea of touring with Chicago first came up, my first thought was, and when I heard about the idea that we were going to get both bands together and do an extended encore, that was really what sold me, because that's just right up my alley. Because there's nothing, to me, as a songwriter, there's nothing better than when you take a song and just take it outside the comfort zone, turn it inside out, and the thought of having these Chicago, I mean, these guys are like real musicians. We're just a bunch of knuckleheads with guitars, and so to have the Chicago horn section and to have the I actually was Robert and I were communicating over the past few months, and I was thinking about Robert singing a verse on "Keep on Loving You," and that just the more you think about it, the more you come up with ideas, because there's so many possibilities because of the fact that the bands are so different. It really does it really gives us both a chance to get outside of our comfort zone. And like I say, having the Chicago horn section on Riding the Storm Out, on Roll the Changes, that just sounds like a ton of fun to me.
Riding the Storm Out.
This is Lee, and I just wanted to add that once we get together and actually start performing, we will rehearse for a couple of days before we start the tour. So once we hit the stage and play the songs, we'll start seeing which things work and which things don't. And when we perform it in front of a live audience, if something doesn't work, we'll change it up a little bit as we go. This thing is malleable, and we will keep going until it becomes a real great event.
Oh, that
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking that it's probably, as all these things do, they start in one place at the beginning of the tour, and over the period of shows, it evolves. Because there's nothing like Lee says, nothing like walking in front of a live audience. Things that you thought might work in rehearsal, sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And that, to me, that's going to be the fun of this tour. It's going to be a real living organism that every night is just going to, things are going to change. It's going to evolve. It's just going to get better and better as the tour goes on.
All right, Kevin, you mentioned too Ride in the Storm Out. Talk a little bit about this version that's just come out on this new compilation. I think because the live version of the song is so popular and so well known, a lot of people don't realize the studio version, the original studio version, wasn't you, but you've got the version out now that was the original recording with you.
Yeah. Well, that was just that was when the lead singer spot in REO Speedwagon was pretty much a revolving door. The first 3 albums that REO made, there was a different lead singer on each one, and I sang on the second record, and then during the third record, something went horribly wrong, and but I had all my vocal tracks done, and then when Mike Murphy replaced me, of course, they put all his vocal parts down, and so somebody just unearthed those original tracks, and so for the real diehard REO fans, there is a version of Riding the Storm Out now that is the original vocal that was responsible for basically for me losing my job in the band. So I don't know. I don't have. We'll see. But
I'll tell you, from an archivist point of view, it's great when you find out that the oxide still has held up and the vocals are still there to be able to put out. So that's.
I know.
So that version of Color My World with Lee singing lead will surface one day too, huh?
Well, that's already out there in the Nashville sessions.
There you go. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
As a reminder, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad to ask a question. Our next question is from Joshua Rotter at CBS Interactive. Joshua?
Hi, I have a question for all 3 of you. First of all, thank you for doing this. I write for a software site, so I'm wondering what are some of the mobile apps that you guys are using?
We're using Pro Tools for our recordings on the road. So we have a whole rig, and we have recorded our entire album this last year using it. So we recorded in hotel rooms, conference rooms, ballrooms, the bus, on stage, anywhere you can record, we have. And we've put together the album, and it's coming out the first week of July. Now, Chicago 36.
Wow. That's awesome. That's pretty good.
And you can catch clips of the album on ChicagoTheBand.com.
Also on YouTube.
Yeah, this is Kevin. I actually I found a really cool app. It's called Songwriter Pad, and it really helps when you're writing songs, especially on the road, or sometimes you get an idea. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, with some melody or some lyric idea, and I've just got my cell phone next to the bed, and you can sing into this thing and to remember an idea, and it's also got kind of a thing where when you're writing lyrics, you can kind of move verses and bridges around and stuff like that. So it's just kind of a cool little songwriting tool. And there's so many apps that have come out that really help you if you choose to use them as a in songwriting and in recording. It's pretty amazing. And I'm still a little bit old school. I still use a pen and a legal pad from time to time as well. But it's nice to have the app when you because now hotel rooms no longer have pens and pads of paper in them anymore, which is really kind of annoying. So.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and take our next question. Our next question is from Alan Scully at Last Word Features.
On this.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
Great.
Yeah, Alan, how are you doing, man?
Good. Well, I think this one probably is for Robert or for Lee. And, you mentioned the new album now, Chicago 36. Quite a number there. But I think I ought to ask a question about this album. I've heard it, and so I know a little bit about how it sounds, but I'm curious for your perspective on what kind of sound you were chasing. If you were trying to emulate more of the earlier albums of the 70s or more of the ballad-oriented stuff of the 80s, how you were trying to decide, what sort of version of Chicago, in a sense, you wanted to get across, or what multiple versions of it.
Well, this is Robert. And I can tell you quickly that my favorite version of Chicago is the original version that we recorded Chicago Transit Authority through Chicago 11. Certainly, we've had success with ballads and things like that, but when we actually finished this album and let our manager hear the final mixes, he said, "Hey, these songs are really long. What's going on here?" And so I said, well, this is a true Chicago album. This is not necessarily the outwardly radio friendly attempt of albums of the 80s and 90s. And I think that that's a side of Chicago that has been missing, that many people, both young and old, prefer Chicago. I mean, Chicago really was sort of a progressive rock band when we started, and there's a whole slew of young people who appreciate that genre of music. So that's, at least for the songs that I contributed, that's what I think we were going for.
Yeah.
Now, in my mind, I disagree with Robert a little bit in the fact that as we have recorded throughout the entire career, every one of our albums has been, yes, we have gone toward trying to come up with something that would be radio playable, especially as the years went on. However, the type of music and the strength of the music and the integrity of the music has never changed, and we've also never tried to do one specific style. Every one of our albums has many, many different styles, and that has never changed. So when we started looking to record, and when we began building the web platform 4 years ago, the initial idea was to have a platform that we could record and release original music from. And that's why I put the recording equipment together so that we could actually do that while we were out traveling around the country or the world. And we just approached it as just writing music. It had no specific idea as to what was going to be the final outcome or how the songs would fit together. That we were just writing. And that's what we plan on continuing to do from here on in.
That's a nice place to be, where you can just follow it that way, just follow your instincts and make it come.
Yeah, totally.
Great. Well, thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is from Amber Main at Alt Revolt. Amber?
Hey, guys. REO Speedwagon in Chicago has been, they've graced our radio stations and our stages for nearly 5 decades now. A lot has changed over the years in the industry and the economy as well. You're both about to co-headline a tour together, obviously, with both bands having an impressive list of accomplishments, including multiple gold and platinum albums. Has the way the music and the politics of the industry changing really had much of an effect on how you have put out music or toured over the years.
Well, this is Kevin, and just in kind of adding on to what Robert and Lee just said about the new Chicago record. I think the biggest change that I've noticed is that the music business is nothing like it used to be, and for bands like us that have been fortunate enough to build up this repertoire of hits that both bands have, we're now at a point in our careers, both bands, where we can really just kind of get back to how things were when we first started, before we had the pressure of recording contracts and actually, trying to maintain the integrity of the music that you write, and at the same time create hit records, which is what the record companies demand. So now we're just at a point, it's like Lee and Robert were saying, where we can write songs with total freedom. We don't have to think about airplay and hits and any of those thoughts that were peripherally on our mind. We don't even have to worry about that anymore. It's really just about being back to how we were when we were kids, just writing music and having fun, and that's what we're doing. We're writing songs at sound checks and just compiling new songs, and we can release them any way we want to, whether it's I'm curious to talk to both Robert and Lee when we get out there about, you just mentioned something about an internet platform to release new music. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds kind of cool, and it's wide open. It's the wild, wild west as far as how we get music to our fans, and I'm excited by it. I think it's great. I think it's great that Chicago is making a new record, and I look forward to doing the same thing. It just sounds like fun to me.
Right. As Kevin said, it's the wild, wild west of the internet, and as we have the freedom of the creative freedom to write. We also, this is sort of a garage band way of looking at recording again. We feel like we're starting over, and probably the most difficult thing to figure out how to present or how to get the music out to people is the marketing aspect. So we're in garage band marketing as well, and everybody's trying to figure out the best way to do it, how to get the music to the most people.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take our next question. Okay, thanks, Amber. We'll take our next question. It comes from Chris Engelhardt at BackstageAxxess. Chris?
Hi, how is everybody today?
Just good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good. After decades of touring, what do you have to do vocally to prepare for the tours nowadays?
Warm up.
Warming up. Actually, this is Robert. I don't know how it is for you, Kevin. I suspect it's the same. On days off, I don't talk, and I'm not a really talkative guy anyway. So I guess I have a leg up on actual concert days, but definitely warming up. I mean, I sort of over the years have developed a routine. Once in a while, a very great once in a while, there is a rehearsal or something before the show, and I find that if I sing at the rehearsal, I'm already warmed up by the time the show hits. So warming up is the key.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I agree, Robert. I agree. It really is about disciplining yourself, because I always say if the drummer has a cold, the concert goes on. If the singer has a cold, it's a little bit of a different situation, because Robert and I walk around with our instrument 24 hours a day, and when you think about it, there's these two little hunks of meat in our throats. Basically, the whole organization rests upon them. So it's definitely a little bit of a pressure, to be a lead singer, and so you got to respect that, and you gotta try to get a good night's sleep, and you gotta, I'm the same as Robert. I talk as little as possible on show days and even on days off, and it's a little more difficult for me because I am kind of a chatty guy, so it really I almost have to like hide out because if there's anybody around, I'll end up talking about them. So, but you know, you do it, and the payoff is that when you walk out on stage, there's nothing better than when you walk out and you sing the first song and you feel like you're in really good voice, and you know, and I can tell, you know, right off the bat if it's going to be a, you know, one of those special nights or just or not, and you know, so the work and the discipline pays off when you walk out there and give it. Now, on this tour, though, you know, I want Robert, I want you and Lee to both be aware that I got to sing every song in our band, you know, and you guys got a little. You guys got a couple of singers over there, so I'm hoping
we've always had that comfort zone.
Yeah,
there's always been 3 lead singers in our band.
Yeah, so you know, so I'm gonna, you know, I'm looking forward to being ready for this tour, and because it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is from Brian Aberback at the Record and Herald News. Brian?
Hi, this is for Kevin. You know, you talked a little bit about the challenges and what platforms to try to put out new music, but I am curious, I know your last album was 7 years ago. Is this something that you're kind of actively planning to put out an album, or whether it's singles to release to the public in the next couple of years, or?
Yeah, well, that's weird that record is 7 years ago. It doesn't seem like that long, but yeah, the last all original record was 7 years ago, and you know, it's tough. You know, I've got 3 teenage children at home, you know, and a wife that actually kind of likes me these days. So so it's kind of tough because we tour about half the year. You know, and so to the commitment to go in the studio and make a record it's a huge commitment. You know, for me probably especially in the band, because I'm, you know, kind of in charge of writing and co-producing the record. So it takes a lot of my energy to make a record, and I just I want to spend as much time with my wife and my kids as I possibly can now, because you know, they're all in high school, and you know, and I see the writing on the wall. Pretty soon they're going to be going out on their own, and I'm going to miss them horribly. So, but what we can do, and what this new, what we're calling the Wild Wild West of the music business allows, is that we don't necessarily have to, you know, record 20 songs. We can do them, you know, there's all kinds of different ways to do it these days. And kind of what you were saying, I think for us, it looks like it's probably going to be, you know, record 1 or 2 at a time. And I don't know what we're going to do with them. You know, maybe we'll put them out on the website. Maybe we'll put them on iTunes. I don't know how we're going to do it, but, you know, I think that it's, you know, as musicians and as artists, it's not really our job to worry about how we're going to do it. It's our job to write the songs and come up with songs that have meaning and lyrics that can touch people's souls, and melodies that can get into people's heads, and grooves that can make people want to move. And you know, if we can do that, if we can write songs and record songs that just get to people, then people will find them. I just feel like you know, I'm less concerned with how we're going to get them out there than just because that was kind of getting in the way, you know, because you know, it got a little frustrating, you know, because our last record didn't get on the radio, and it's like, well, geez, if our records aren't going to get on the radio, then it can be deflating. And recently, I've just been inspired, and so it's just about writing and playing and having fun.
Okay, and this is on a totally different note, and it's for everyone. Being from the Midwest, I'm just curious, you know, how your upbringing and just living in the part of the country, growing up where you did, how that informed the sounds that you went out to create with your band and your work ethic.
Well, as we were coming up, this is Lee. as we were growing up in Chicago, there was multiple styles of music that were proliferated in Chicago. So as we grew up, these sounds just sort of came into our beings. We listened to them, a lot of stuff we liked, but there was blues and jazz and rock and roll and classical. I mean, everything that you can imagine, we soaked up. So once we started playing and going out on the road and writing music, you hear all of those elements come out in our music. And also the work ethic from the Midwest, I think, stuck with us. REO is working, about 6 months a year. We're doing the same thing. We play over 100 shows a year, every year, and we don't seem to be slowing down any.
Yeah, well, this is Kevin. We also, the other thing that we had in common growing up in Chicago, and I agree with Lee about the work ethic. There's a Midwest work ethic that is just it's in your being. You grew up that way. Chicago's just a great place for that. You know, people in Chicago, they work hard, and they also, you know, we also learned that when the work is done, you go out and have a good time, and it's that balance that if you can keep a decent balance between your hard work and your fun, then your life is gonna probably be successful. But we also had, and check it out, guys, how about it? We had WLS radio in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you can ignore the influence that radio station was. It was huge. I mean, it was the tastemaker for the country, basically. And you heard Motown, you heard British Invasion, you heard, you know, kind of the boy bands like the Four Seasons, and you heard Bob Dylan, you heard everything, the Byrds. I mean, it was just like this amazing, mix of all different styles of music, all coming from WLS radio. When I was a kid, I was attached to that station. I listened to WLS as much as I possibly could. I soaked it up, and it was so being from Chicago, having that radio station on 24/7 was huge for all of us.
Any further comments? Okay, we'll go to our next question, and this comes from Craig Saylor at the News Tribune. Craig?
Hey, guys. So you have kind of touched on this in some previous questions, but I wanted to ask you about touring specifically. So let me just, I know this is kind of corny, but let me phrase it this way. What would the members of REO Speedwagon and Chicago be, what would they recognize, and what would they be dismayed by if they were to see a 2014 tour? What's new and what's the same?
Well, I think the same is the travel that it takes to get to the individual places.
Right.
You know, and so far the transporter machine from Star Trek has not been invented, so we cannot go home after every show and then appear again magically for the next show. So we have to be away from the family to accomplish our touring, and that has not changed and probably is not going to in the near future.
Now, you, Robert and Lee, you guys have played in Moscow recently, so that's certainly new, right?
Yes, we are completely willing to play anywhere, anytime. My opinion is that even though from time to time musicians will bellyache a little bit about the inconvenience of the road, but the fact is that when you play music, it's really good to have an audience to play for. So wherever they happen to be, I think Chicago's been willing to go. I'm sure Kevin and REO feel the same way.
Is there any sort of, in terms of the physicality, is there more of an emphasis or pressure on merchandise than there was like in the 1970s, or has that changed at all?
We're just trying to sell shirts and, the tour as it's coming. We're going to we'll be selling the new album as well as the videos and VHS material that we have available. So we're just going to try to keep our merchandise going.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not really a significant boost to the income. It's more of for me, it seems to be more of a memento for the fans that want something. when I go and see a Broadway show or a concert, I usually want to grab something, whether it's a CD or a pair of sunglasses or something, So it's really just sort of a memento.
So basically,
I have Lady Gaga sunglasses, just so you know.
so basically, touring has not been affected as much as other aspects of the music industry has. It's still getting on the road and loading up the bus and playing for people.
Oh yeah, it's the same old thing.
Okay,
same thing.
Great.
I think of all the aspects of the music business, touring is the thing that has remained the most constant. And I have a feeling Chicago is similar to REO in as much as that we started out just playing gigs. And you start out playing wherever it is, whether it's bars or small concerts, whatever. And making records was never really, at least for us, it wasn't a significant part of how we made a living. In our minds, when we signed a recording contract, it was the record company just basically paid us, just paid our
Sorry, Kevin? Kevin, I'm sorry. We're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. Can you move your phone a little bit, maybe? There, that's
how's that? Is that better? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I was just saying that the touring has been the thing that's been the most the same. Touring, it's still, you get on the bus, you get to the hotel, you go to the gig, and that's been, for 40 years. I mean, we stay in nicer hotels now than we did in the 70s for sure, and probably the best thing that's changed is tour buses have satellite TV now, so you can, if there's a sporting event that you want to catch, you can DVR it on the bus, and then, as you're driving to the next town, you can, watch that Blackhawks game or that Laker game, whatever it is, or a certain TV show or whatever. So it kind of makes the travel a little bit easier. The buses are beautiful. They run smooth. They're quiet. The air conditioning's better. So it's better than the 1972 Chevrolet Impala station wagon that we traveled in back in the 70s for sure.
And I'll tell you, the thing that keeps, and it sounds like both bands on the road and willing to put up with the, yes, we do complain about traveling sometimes, but the most important thing is the show. Both bands love playing for people, and we do a good job at it, and we look forward to doing it again and beyond.
Yeah, our keyboard player Neil has a great line. He says we play the show for free. It's the other 22 hours a day that we get paid for.
Bingo.
Thank you. We'll take our next question. This comes from Jim Villanueva with Classics du Jour. Jim?
Hey, guys. How are you? Good to talk to all of you again. We go way back through my many years in the radio business, so hello to you all. Listen, with a nod to the Chicago Bears, your two bands are the monsters of the Midwest. That's what I'm going to dub this tour anyways. I wanted to ask you, all three of you, if you could chime in. Aside from practice, what advice would you give a young musician today who, obviously wants to follow in your footsteps someday? Maybe Kevin, I'll start with you.
Well, practicing is definitely a part of it. You've got to be able to play the instrument. That if you expect people to come in and spend their money to see you play, you got to know what you're doing to a certain degree. And I think that everybody wants to be a rock star. Everybody wants to have that part of it. But I think it's more about you have to need to express yourself. And I know for myself that it's like making music, writing songs, performing. It's like breathing. It's like water. It's like I have to have it. There was never a plan B. There was never another alternative for me. It's just and I always tell young people that you're going to have people who are going to
tell you that you suck 100 times until that 101st person who gets what you're trying to do. And you have to be willing to put up with a lot of discouragement, and you have to believe in yourself so strongly that you can withstand it. And just, I'll tell you just a quick anecdote. I was in Clive Davis's office. Clive Davis, still is one of the biggest names in the music business, and back at this time he was huge. And I went in with my little demo tape, and I sat in his office and played him the tape, and he turned it down. He just said, this just isn't there. I don't hear this. Now that would have been enough to make a lot of people give up. And I swear to God, I walked out of the meeting, and in my mind there was something wrong with his tape machine. So, and it turns out that on that tape were 2 #1 songs, 2 songs that became #1 records, Can't Fight This Feeling and Time for Me to Fly. So, you just you can't give up, and you just gotta keep believing in yourself.
Yeah, I think, this is Lee, I think as far as being a musician, there's a sensitivity that is inherent in being a musician. And along with that sensitivity, once you get into a band and start performing for people, you have to come to grips with making mistakes and failing. And being able to get back up and go, you know what, I'm going to do it better this time, and figure out that most people hadn't heard that mistake. They hear the overall sound of the song and the intent and the feeling that you're putting out there, and that's what people connect with. So you have to get by the personal, oh my God, that wasn't good enough stuff, and just keep going.
This is Robert, and I agree with everything that I've heard so far. A couple of thoughts came to mind for me, and that is, I think a lot of young musicians get into it for what they perceive the result will be, whether it's monetary or fame or glory, and all of which are fine if they happen, but that's really not the reason most musicians really spend their lives learning their instrument and listening and exploring music, because music has got sort of an infinite timeline. The more you do it, the more you realize you don't know, and which leads to my second point, is that a really important component to being a musician is to be able to listen. Be able to listen to the other players in your band, be able to listen to music in general. There's music now that we have access to on the web from every corner of the world, every culture in the world. It's really important that we remember that music is a communication. And so listening to music and being willing to use music on a personal basis for communicating to other people is really what we're doing.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and take our next question. Before I do that, Kevin, we might need you to adjust your phone again. You were getting a little fuzzy on us.
Okay.
Okay.
Take the phone out of your pocket. Take that phone out of your pocket.
Yeah, I just love when it vibrates. So you're right. I should take it out of my pocket. Okay.
Okay, our next question comes from Dale Taylor at Jams Plus. Dale?
All right, guys, what's going on? Glad to I'm with you today. Hey, all right. My question for you is, technology has changed so much. I mean, y'all are talking about apps where you can download apps that you can record, and I mean, the days of Muscle Shoals being the Mecca has far passed. There's a lot of pros to it for you, as you say, you can record anywhere. But what are the cons? What are the cons for the future young musicians coming up to really try to get back to that sitting in a room and doing a recording and a little bit of editing and going with it? And so what do you think it's doing to music going the other way and being so digital, I guess?
Well,
you certainly can sit. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, it is digital, and you can do it one file at a time, or you can get a whole band in the room and record everybody together and edit from there. I mean, the field is completely open to anything that you want to do now. So go ahead, Robert.
Oh, yeah. All I was going to say was that you certainly can sit in a room in Muscle Shoals or any place else and just run a tape recorder if that's what you're doing. But by the same token, you could do the same thing, do the same piece of music in the same room in Muscle Shoals, but just record it on a hard drive. So it's really, you're still capturing the ambiance, and you're documenting or you're creating the song or creating or documenting the performance. It's just the media has changed. That's really all.
And also, a lot of the hardware that is used to create the sounds in Muscle Shoals and in L.A. and Paris, wherever the studio might be, and Abbey Road all of those hardware items are now called plugins. They're digital plugins, and the companies that made those hardware pieces have signed off on the plugins. And you'll see that when you start using them, you can create sounds. You can have the API board, the API mic pre's, and create that sound anywhere that you want in the world, in your hotel room. I mean, all of this stuff is available and out there, ready for purchase and use. So every musician is on the same playing field now.
I don't think you lose anything in terms of the emotional content. It's just a matter of how you capture it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, this is Kevin. I agree with that. And at the same time, I'm friends with some young bands. There's a young guitar player, singer named Tyler Bryant from Texas, lives in Nashville now, and he's got a band called The Shakedown, and we've known this young kid since he was about 17, and he's just an amazing player. They've got this great band, and they're traveling around in a station wagon the way we used to in the early 70s, and they're at a different place in their career. So for them, they've never experienced going into a studio like Muscle Shoals or going into a studio like the Record Plant in L.A. like we all have. And so for them to walk in and feel the vibe in that room and get inspired by it, that can be a really important part of the growth of a band to bring them together and just feel those vibes. And there's a place for that in the world. I think those studios are really important, and I hope that they stay in business and continue to prosper. At the same time, we've been there. We've experienced those things, and it's been they were all great experiences that got us where we are. Nowadays, our band, Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown, they all live in the same house, so, with us, and I'm sure with Chicago, we got band members living all over the country. So the new technology allows us to, for example, for our last record, Bruce's dad plays the clarinet. Well, Bruce was able to take his dad into a studio in Florida, and, we sent the files for the song that we wanted him to play on, I think over the internet somehow, and Bruce went in, his dad, who was in failing health, played this clarinet part, sent the file back, we put it into the song, and it was beautiful, and his dad passed away about 2 weeks later. This was an amazing thing for Bruce and for his family to have his father play this wonderful clarinet solo on this one song of ours. It could never have happened any other way except with this new technology. So it's, I agree with Lee and Robert. It's a matter of how you use the technology and you capture the vibe. The vibe is there. It's just a matter of how you capture it, and I don't think it matters.
That's a great story.
Well, when we started playing, we lived in the same house in 1968 when we came out to California. The whole band, and then when a couple guys were married, they moved out to apartments that were only about a half block away. So most of the time for, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, Robert,
yep.
We lived together and rehearsed every day. So we really honed the craft. besides playing in the clubs, just rehearsing every day and working on stuff was extremely rewarding for us.
It's what made the sound.
Yep.
Thank you. And our last question today comes from Kristen Clark at Pop Culture Madness. Kristen?
Hi. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Okay.
So I'm curious, over the years, what it's been like for you guys, in what ways that you've seen your fan base kind of grow and evolve.
Wow.
Well, I think this is. Oh, go ahead.
That's all right.
Well, I was going to say that our fan base is it's a kind of a multi-tiered type of thing. We see people, and I imagine that Robert and Lee can concur, that you look out in the crowd and you see people that have seen the band and been there from the very beginning and are just longtime fans that just come and see over and over again. They can't get enough of it. And then I see high school and college kids out there who and they know all the words. They're all singing along. So you get people. It's a wide range of an age group out there, and it's really great. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing people that have been there since the beginning, and then there's nothing better than seeing young people who are turned on to the music. So it's pretty cool what I see, and I'll let Robert and Lee comment.
Well, what I've noticed, this is Robert, what I'm noticing, partly because Chicago is touring more and more abroad, more than we ever were. I think that people via the Internet have accessed Chicago's early music as well as its more recent music, and now that we are actually bringing the music to every hemisphere, we are actually seeing some of our fans for the first time, and they are certainly seeing Chicago for the first time. Sometimes it's an age thing, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just, people hear music when they're ready to hear music, and I agree. I sense that there is I'll call new millennials who are attending rock concerts for the first time. They've heard Chicago on the Internet or on radio, and now they're hearing it live, perhaps for the first time. And I do think that the appeal is, in the case of both REO and Chicago, these are both bands that do it live, do it for real every single night, and that's kind of a rare. It's become a rarity nowadays for touring artists, touring bands, to be able to replicate what they record in a live context, and I think that is a big accomplishment, and I think that's a big attraction.
And this is Lee. We when we first started, our initial fans were college-age people, and AM radio at the time would not play our first album because we didn't have a hit yet, so we were in catch-22 territory. And so we played every college that we could find, high school, colleges, all over the country, and that's how we built our core audience. And then from there, we just kept making records and staying on the road, and the people who initially listened to us grew up, had kids, got married, had kids. They brought those kids to the shows. And it's been, and for whatever reasons, the same music resonated with those kids as well. And for a few generations now, or a few decades now, that has been proliferating itself over and over again. It's just amazing that we're still able to do it. And like Robert said, the most important thing is that we still love playing live for people and sounding as good or better than we did on the records.
This is Kevin. Just one last comment, and one of the things that I think is really exciting, at least for me personally, is that there is, REO's music and Chicago's music. We come from our own unique spots, and the music. The thing that unites us is a certain time period, obviously, and songs that people know. Those hit songs, those songs that everybody can sing along to. But one of the most exciting things is I think there's going to be a lot of people who come to see REO Speedwagon who may be seeing Chicago for the first time, and so Chicago is going to play for a lot of people that are basically REO fans, and same thing. There's a lot of people that come to see Chicago regardless of who they're playing with, and now they're going to get to see REO Speedwagon for the first time. So a lot of people are going to get turned on to music, and so it's, to me, I love that. I love the idea that we're going to be, that both bands are going to be turning people on to each other's music through this partnership that we're putting together this year, and that's really exciting. And I think the fans are the ultimate winners in this thing. And when you get two bands who play live and who love to play live, like REO and Chicago, what ends up happening is the bands motivate each other. It's like we know that Chicago's going to come out and bring it every night. So that's like it just kind of raise the bar, and it kind of you get this thing where both bands are just wanting to strive to play the best show they've ever played every night, because you know that the other guys are going to do that. And then at the end, we all get together for the encore celebration. And, I think it's going to be a really exciting tour. And I would encourage any REO Speedwagon fans, if you haven't seen the band in a while, or if you've seen us last year, this is going to be a tour that you don't want to miss. It's going to be it's going to be something special. And I know our whole band is excited about it, and we're going to.
As are we.
We're going to be having fun.
Good points.
Great, thank you. Well, this concludes our Q&A portion for today. We'd like to ask Lee, Kevin, or Robert if they have anything to add. Gentlemen?
No, it's just been really great to share this hour or so with Lee and with Kevin, and I'm even more excited than I was before I called.
We look forward to seeing you guys out on the road.
Yep, us too, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. This has been a nice little hang here, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more hanging once we get out there. So we're looking forward to it as well.
Hey, Kev, I sent you an email asking about the performing song keys. So when I'm practicing, I can practice in the correct key.
Gotcha. I haven't checked my email today. I'll zoom you back on that as soon as I see it, Robert.
Okay, man. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, guys.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.